This is Eric Rutan of Cannibal Corpse. You are listening to the Scars and Guitars podcast with Andrew McKay Smith.
G'day everybody, welcome to the show. This is the first of what I hope is many episodes of Talking Metal and Some Other Shit featuring James McIlroy, formerly of Cradle of Filth, currently in Summon the Walls. You asked, we have delivered. Many of you heard me ask James if he'd be keen to take our initial conversation a little bit further. Lo and behold, here we are. Rubber has hit tarmac. Throughout this conversation, we talk about heavy metal, extreme metal. We talk about some TV shows. We even discuss the ideas that underpin a lot of what's happening in the current social and political landscape. So everything's on the table. Everything is indeed on the table. So here he is, the first episode, Talking Metal and Some Other Shit with James McIlroy. How have you been otherwise? Just working? Usual stuff?
Oh man, it's been all that album prep stuff, hasn't it?
Oh, well, I really like it. I'm not just pissing in your pocket about that. There's some fantastic almighty riffs on there, actually. So
it's really fun. I you know what it's like. You're just completely blinded to how it sounds to anyone else. So it's nice to hear when you send someone else to go, actually just has some value.
Well, I get sent a lot of. I've got to say, I get sent a lot of stuff, and what I usually do, it might be like probably like everybody, I suppose. I work during the week, so I have a few drinks on the weekend and put on the fire pit out the back, or just sometimes sit out the back under the stars, and I'll be having my Jack Daniels or my Bundy rum or whatever, and songs will either get through to me then or they won't. I'll either go, oh, next, and your stuff, I had it on, and because I kind of know you, I thought, no, I'm going to give this a bit more of a go than what I might normally do if I don't really appreciate what's happening. But mate, in all honesty, I didn't have to do that. I actually genuinely enjoyed what I heard, and I even felt that leaving some of them as instrumental would serve the songs better.
Yeah, well, sometimes you think that, and then you put vocals on it, and you go, actually, no, that's really cool.
Mm.
So,
yeah.
No, I'm interested to see what's going to happen, because I've just shipped off, the keys to some guy that the drummer knows. He used to play in a band. There used to be a Belgian band called Oceans of Sadness, and they didn't do too badly, but they were like kind of small time, but they still made it out to the States and stuff like that to play shows. So they weren't exactly, didn't exactly stay small. But the old keyboard player from there thought, just see what he can do with it, because I'm a Neanderthal. I just sit there and click in like notes on the MIDI thing.
Yeah.
And then I go, that doesn't sound right. Let's move that one up. Now that sounds right, because I know no music theory. So, but yeah, I'm hoping it comes out well.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, thanks for enjoying it. I mean, it's really weird, because the one thing that you picked out that you said you liked, I was like going, I don't know if I should put that one on.
Oh, no, that's epic. No, that was. I don't think it's fair to say that was the standout track, but that was my favorite. There you go. That one.
Yeah.
I love the build up. I love that melancholy build up and the dissonant chord structures you put in that one.
Well, what this sort of music, if you think too much about it, then it's
yeah,
too much. But yeah, anyway, that's what I've been up to. So just doing all that and working and just shitting myself, going, I've got to go to the studio and it's got to be all right. And then going, shit, I need to record all the guitars again now afterwards as well.
Oh my God. Okay, fair enough. Yeah. Have you got a release, like a release month or?
You know what? I'd be happy if it comes out in spring.
Okay.
Because I kind of know all the work involved, so I don't really think anything's going to be completely finished until December. And then there'll probably still be some other stuff to put on. And you know how it goes. They got to go like, who's going to mix this?
Yeah. Well, are you going to shop it around to the labels like Osmos and Nuclear Blast?
See, this is when my imposter syndrome comes in a bit, because I go, well, do I do that? Does anyone care? It's that kind of thing.
I think you should. Yeah, I think you should.
Well, I'll have to see. I mean, I think it comes down to, if you don't have a product, if you just have some shitty demos, then I don't think anyone will listen. If you have a finished product, then people will actually sit down and go, well, we don't have to give these guys any money. We just have to distribute it. It's more of a known thing what they're getting, as opposed to, I think, before you just go like, here's a load of money going to the studio, and then the band comes back with something. And sometimes it's genius, but sometimes you got. I bet there's record label execs sitting there going, what the fuck were they thinking? Like, seriously, what the fuck were they actually thinking when they did all of this, and then came and go, this is brilliant. And look at it, go, this is unsellable dog shit. Which I'm sure has happened to quite a few bands, but no one tells them, and they release it, and then it all goes to it all goes wrong.
Yeah, well, I've been talking to some people lately who similar situation to you. So we're in a band that had a degree of prominence and great musicians, and I think the deals that they're being offered by Atomic Fire or Nuclear Blast, they're akin to distribution deals. But what it does do, it gets you on the radar. It just means that the average punter out there in the Midwest of the USA or in Melbourne in Australia, wherever it might be, develop some awareness.
Yeah, I think that's the only way to do it these days. I don't think you can just go off and just say, look, here we are, give us some money, we'll record a record for you. I feel like that died a while ago.
Yeah.
Because you're not making any money for record sales, and giving bands like huge advances to go into the studio and do stuff like record with full orchestras, unlimited budget. That's kind of gone. So you need to have something, and they look at it and go, can we sell this? Yes or no? And then if they say yes, then they'll put some effort into it. Hopefully. So yeah, we'll see.
Yeah,
I'm excited. I mean, even if not many people listen to this, I'll still have made it. And that's kind of half the point most of the time, isn't it? Just putting something out. I agree
totally with you on that one, James. It's really important to establish legacy, because that's actually the main reason for doing things. And I wish people understood that if you got the music in you, or you got a book in you, or whatever it might be, do it anyway, because at some point in time later on, people might pick up on it, and you do it for yourself first and foremost.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, I'm just going to write what I like. I'm not really going to care if anyone else likes it, because that's beside the point. If I cared if anyone else liked it, I don't know. There's plenty of ways you can go, like the whole middle of the road American radio rock kind of stuff, where you pretend that you're a little bit pissed off, but not too pissed off, because otherwise you get the parental advisory sticker and you sing about things which are not quite edgy, and they're kind of like that. There's country music with slightly more rough guitars, really, isn't it?
You're right, and I've thought that for a long time with a lot of that stuff. Like, what's that? It's Not Over. Who sings that? I can't remember now. But Creed. You might be happy to know then that Creed are making a comeback. So there you go, the king of that sort of music.
That's just amazing. I remember Creed. This is listening to the stuff. It was so bland and middle of the road, and they're all just like, what was it? The tapping up the whole Christian Midwest, going like, a massive Christian band. While meanwhile, Scott Stapp's basically, doing tons of coke and getting his nuts sucked off backstage by all kinds of stuff, and being the complete opposite of what he claimed to be. Yeah. So. But the fact that they're getting back together is like, oh man. And at the same time, as was the other terrible band, which I'm sure people will tell me is not terrible, but I did think Godsmack, that one.
Oh,
yeah. Another one of those bands which is just like, they managed to take grunge and strip away everything that was good about it, and turned it into something just completely bland, like a Twinkie.
Yeah. Oh, I couldn't agree more. I know. And what was more shocking was that I used to go back in the turn of the century when Godsmack and Creed and stuff, when they were coming of age, if you like, and they were developing their huge audiences that they eventually obtained. I'd go into rehearsal studios with blokes I hadn't met to join bands or just jam or whatever, and they'd be wearing the T-shirts. And I was like, what are you doing? Like, what do you, I was genuinely curious. What do you find interesting about these bands? And I think deep down, maybe not deep down, maybe the shallow aspect of it, they felt that by wearing the T-shirts and maybe listening to these bands, that they might incorporate some of the magical juju that these bands might have. When I say magical juju, all of the studio trickery and the production and the massive marketing budget that's behind them, because they might have obtained a little bit of that magic if you like, and applied it to their own music, and they could then become as big as these Godsmacks and Daughtry. That's the band I was thinking of before, and Creed. And it's like, it doesn't. Of course, it doesn't work like that. You can't just sort of develop an interest in a band and think, well, I'm going to sort of plug into the way that they do things, and hopefully it happens for me. You've got to be you. You've got to be the individual that you are.
Exactly. I mean, they started those bands out, and they were them. I mean, I don't like it that much. I don't find it's got much worth to it personally, but that's just me. There's plenty of people that like it, and that's good for you if you like it. But they didn't start out going, well, they weren't copying anyone. They just did something, and it just happened to be very radio friendly and kind of bland, in my opinion. Which means it's easier to sell to a load of people because you get what do you want? Do you want your kids to listen to I don't know, the mysterious Dom Satanas? I probably said that wrong, and I'm going to get flamed for that.
Pretty good, actually.
No black metal. Or do you want them to listen to Creed? It's kind of So one album a parent's going to buy from Walmart, the other one kid's going to come home with, and basically just to end up with their parents getting them exercised.
Yeah, it's an adjacent point, but I tried to feel free to, as always, feel free to disagree or otherwise with me here. But the other, not too long ago, the Game of Thrones things went right over the top of my head. So I thought, you know what? Before I go to bed each night, I'm going to try and get through an episode and just see how I go. So I planned it so I could get to bed about an hour earlier just to try to get through an episode. Mate, I reckon I got through about 2.5 episodes before I had to turn it off. I don't get it. It does not get through to me at all. That happened to you?
No, because I'm pretty compulsive when I start watching things. I at least have to finish the season unless it's utterly, utterly terrible. But even bad things I can sit through, just movies, the whole lot. So even if halfway through I'm going, this is terrible, I still need to know kind of how it ends. So I did start watching it, and then it got to a stage where I think with a lot of those series, they spend about half a series setting everything up, and then maybe the last half or last third things start happening. And so it's I think you need to invest in it, and I kind of did invest in it, and then it was okay until the last couple of parts, which just kind of switched off and went, they've just lost it. It's no longer fun to watch.
No. I have been watching The Sopranos lately because I missed that the first time, or you don't know, it's been around 25 years or 20 years or whatever, but I am enjoying that, I've got to say. I
still haven't watched that at all. I just completely missed out on that completely at the time, and I just haven't got around to it.
Yeah, seems like a decent show. I liked Sons of Anarchy. I got through all of that. There's a few others that are out there. But
I gave up on that as well after a while because it just got...
the last few seasons were terrible. The first two I thought were, I'm not going to say groundbreaking, but they were new for what they were. But
the last year, then it just got bad.
Yeah. But you probably know a bit. Bikies are everywhere in Australia. So
yeah.
There was a couple of movies that were coming out, Australian movies that were coming out at around the same time as well, because there's an infamous incident that happened at the Viking Tavern in Milperra in Sydney between the rebels and the Bandidos. They basically had a shoot 'em up, but they killed a couple of innocent bystanders, if you like. So apart from their regular notoriety, they've also got that to their name. The bikies. So we have a bit of a thing here, and there's I don't know whether it might have made Belgium or the UK, but Underbelly. Have you heard of the series Underbelly before?
No.
Check that out if you really like the crim stuff, because that's an Australian series, and it talks about the Australian criminal underground. And it's pretty violent stuff, pretty intricate sort of stuff. But who's got the time for watching series these days? Let's face it.
Okay, occasionally it depends what it is, what I find and stuff like that. But I think it's generally now winter's coming. Well, summer for you guys, but winter over here. There's more time to just not be outside doing stuff because it's cold. So that kind of feeds into watching more series, doing more stuff like that, and generally trying to be antisocial.
Yeah. Does it get below? Is it snow where you are? Sorry, I wouldn't have a clue. So does it get like that?
No, we don't get that. Occasionally, if you're lucky, it snows, and then I get stuck everywhere. You can't go anywhere. So then all the Nordic countries laugh at the rest of Europe having a little bit of snow and not being able to cope with it. So, but no, it doesn't really snow much here anymore.
Oh, fair enough. Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, well, we're already getting 30-degree days, so it's spring for us, as you can appreciate. But it's already today. I think is going to be a bit cooler. But as soon as we hit the 30-degree days, mate, that's when the air conditioning comes on, and that's kind of like the opposite. That's when I do get outside. I swim every day, so I get outside and do that, and I water the garden because you got to, otherwise everything dies. But that's, for the same reasons, mate, you got to stay inside. That's when I might start binging on something if I'm so inclined. But it's generally speaking when I'll start diving into some books. So I've got about 10 books on the go at Kindle at any one time. It's just whether or not I feel like, sort of to your point around suffering through series, I'll do that with books too. But occasionally, because I've got Kindle Unlimited, you can download, you pay your subscription, you download all of these books, but sometimes there's no payoff with them, and you're sort of 500 pages into a 700-page book, and you're like, when is this thing going to start resolving and making sense? And it doesn't. So I have to go to Wikipedia or somewhere like that and spoil the ending, and turns out there's no result, no payoff, and I'm like, well, I'm not sticking through this.
No point today is that it's like a concept album that doesn't wrap itself up.
Yes. Yeah, there's a few of them. Yeah. Well, I mean, when you compare, are you like me? You think The Wall and Seventh Son, they're about it, and you sort of judge all other concept albums against those two?
No. I judge everything against Operation Mindcrime.
Oh, wow.
Specifically the live version. Not so much the studio version, but it's the live version that does it for me. Because it got recorded with this really weird kind of, I think, hall reverb or something on it, which is absolutely odd. I've never really heard it on a different on any other live recordings, but it's got a really odd sound to it, which is almost like haunting. And it just really makes that whole experience. But yeah, I judge everything against that, really.
Here's a
Seventh Son.
You're right.
Yeah, Seventh Son, that's all right as well. But for me, it's definitely that one Queensryche album. That's for me, that's like probably the pinnacle of concept albums. Strangely.
Yeah, I tend to be more of a Chris DeGarmo guy, so I go for Empire, funnily enough. There's that thing with fans, not older fans like us, tend to sort of go for one of those two. Not always, but I definitely lean into his guitar playing a lot more than I do into the concept and Jeff's vocal, I've got to be honest. I've always been the musician's fan, as people know. But was The Wall, was that one of your first?
Chris DeGarmo was excellent on Live Crime and stuff like that. He was like, I thought he was the best thing in Queensryche, and then he left and became a pilot. And he tried coming back, and then it just didn't work out. Which I think happens to a lot of bands, where you get people that were there, you go like, oh, they're integral to the band. They come back, and it just doesn't work for some unknown reason.
His time was just done, I think. And when I say Chris wrote most of Empire. So that's when I talk about that, that's what I mean by that. And I think it was my introduction to Queensryche as well, being 1991, 92 or whatever it was. Well, that was 1990, but that's when I picked up on the album, was around 92. So it's hard to, it's a bit like the Queen thing or the Pink Floyd thing. It's hard to sort of go back and say another album's your favourite in the Pantheon, because they're all, in that era in particular from Queensryche, they're all very good.
Yeah, they did have a good run for a while, and then it's just, I think, I don't know, quality control has kind of lost it a little bit, and you had like maybe 1-2 really good songs on an album, then a load where you went like, meh, not into this.
Yeah.
Talking of which, there's the whole Portnoy back in Dream Theater thing, so I'm interested in that.
Yeah, I saw that. I don't know. Yeah. Do you get back together with an ex-girlfriend you used to love, though? I mean, do you do that?
Yeah.
Or do you find new lover somewhere else? Expand your horizons and do stuff. Look, who knows if it's financial? I mean, I won't even speculate on that. But I thought Mike Mangini, because he was in Annihilator too, I thought he was an outstanding drummer, I've got to be frank, and I thought he was a great fit for those guys. But clearly they feel like they've got some unfinished business on whatever level, so the proof will be when the next recording comes out, whatever that sounds like.
Yeah, I'm actually kind of hoping that Portnoy ends up, I don't know, keeping things a bit more in check. I think he was always part. I get the feeling he was always part of, like, the writing process. I never read that many interviews really, but he wasn't just there as a musician to fill a kind of role. So I'm kind of hoping that maybe with that you might get, because I used to love Dream Theater, and then they just got really boring for me. It's like just too much. I know, put 5 virtuosos in a room and then, see what happens. Doesn't always work out the way you want it to, which is kind of a shame. So,
I agree. I'm just looking up what the album is that I liked of theirs. Sorry, you go.
So, I mean, my favorite stuff is still really the early stuff because, because when you're old, you have to say that. I really like the first album that had as a break from complete Images and Words and Awake.
Images and Words. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Falling to Infinity I liked as well. And then after that, I think there's people really like Scenes from Memory, but I wasn't that into it. And it kind of went, for me, like they stopped being about songs and more about technicality for a while, is kind of feeling I got. Like, what do you do when you Dream Theater? Do you try and outdo yourself or that kind of thing?
Yeah, well, when they lost, when Jordan's a fantastic player and a lovely guy, I've got to say, Jordan Rudess, if you ever meet him, awesome fella. But he's so intelligent that I think that I feel like when he joined, the other guys were like, well, it's game on now. We've got someone who's really on top of it. And not that Derek wasn't at all, but I feel like when he came in, they became the mathematician. They became mathematicians as opposed to musicians.
That could well be. That could kind of happen as if it's one-upmanship. It's like, I mean, they're all insanely talented people.
Yeah, but I'm with you. I think Images and Words was there again. That's when you first get into them, you're like, okay, that's the sound right there. And then they had that huge, that enormous song off the album, whose name, God, I'm drawing on my memory here, so I'm having to look up which one it is.
Pull Me Under or is it Metropolis?
Yeah, Pull Me Under.
Yeah, the beginning for Metropolis, that one, that's an amazing intro.
Yeah. But were you of the view that, like, so you hear a song like Pull Me Under and you're like, oh my God, it's here. This is the sound that I've been wanting a band to come out with for years. And it's like they basically never really did a song like that again. And you think, what's going on? I know they'd had some heavier stuff, but you know what I mean? Grooving monster of a song like that one.
That's a hard one. I don't think I ever really saw it as like, oh, I need to make more songs like this, because if a band gets stuck making the same song over and over again, that's like a death knell as well. So it's like, on one hand, it's kind of nice that they've only done one kind of like that, and then everything else is kind of a little bit different because it keeps things interesting. So I'm not so much saying that it's like the one song that made that band, but I think it was more the combination of people at the time and, probably where they were in their lives and what they did, what they wrote at that point. Because it's a nice cohesive album. You can listen to from start to finish, get through the whole thing, and it's pretty cool. But that's going back to just with I haven't really heard that many albums recently where I can just listen to it from start to finish.
I couldn't do that with Falling into Infinity, I found. And it's not that I don't have an attention span. I just thought it was way too dynamic. The highs were too high and the lows were too low. The gaps between them weren't as consistent as what I would like them to be. And I went back and listened to it the other day, actually, and I was, having a nap and I was lying down, and I often put on music and I'll do that and I'll just see if it's not so much, can you keep me awake? Let's play a game. It's more, how engaging is this as I'm drifting off into that in-between space between being awake and being asleep. And it still didn't grab me, I've got to be honest.
I don't know. I think I played the Trail of Tears to death, that epic song at the end. I think the one that's 12 minutes long or something like that. I love that. And then I think the Change of Seasons EP as well, I thought that was really cool. Remember, that was like a 20-minute song, wasn't it?
Oh, I think so. Let's have a look. I'll check it out. Yeah. Again, just so that the peanut gallery didn't go, you guys aren't real Dream Theater fans. I am, and you don't know anything. Let me see. Lines in the Sand is 12 minutes long, and Trail of Tears I used to call it Trail of Tears. So there you go. Trail of Tears, 1306. John Muir.
Oh, well, I got the name wrong as well. So, I'm forever cast down as,
The prog rock elites have cast you out. You are not prog metal elite. And how dare you defile our favorite band?
I think I was never in the club anyway to start off with.
I got the Wall before I got any of this stuff. So the Wall for me is I remember going down when I was a young fella, going to a boarding school. Mates lived everywhere. So I remember going down to the south coast of New South Wales on a bus and just listening to that thing front to back and then back to front again or what have you. And it was just that right moment in time. I was reading a bass player magazine that had articles about Steve Harris in it, and I was listening to Pink Floyd, and I remember that just had such a huge impact on my psyche, because when I got down there to Bega, it was a town called Bega, and I remember going into the record store and just looking at the Pink Floyd and the Iron Maiden stuff. Not that I had the money to buy it or anything like that, but it became very apparent that I'd sort of been almost set in my ways from that point, that these were going to be two very important bands to my listening psyche. But the thing about The Wall is it just it had the lyrics as well that made you think, because you could understand them all as well. But just that dynamic that it had between light and dark, and the very dark and then the very light as well. And Roger Waters, for all of his cranky old madness these days, I think he's a genius, I've got to say.
Yeah, there's a lot of lunacy involved with him these days. It's interesting to watch, but he doesn't do himself any favors, does he?
No, he's a fool these days. Let's face it. He's lost it, and he's lost his ability to. It's not about self-censorship. It's about being appropriate in public, I think, and he's lost the ability to do that. So he's literally the old man yells at the cloud meme at the moment from The Simpsons.
Pretty much.
I don't know. I don't know what his wife or what his people around him are encouraging in one way or another around, but the interesting thing is that no matter how bad he gets these days, in my view, it doesn't affect his legacy.
Yeah. But do you think that's the thing? Like, do you think, no matter if you do truly cross a line, that it can affect the legacy? Because I was thinking about this the other day.
Oh, well, so there's two parts to that. The first part of it, if you go that bloke from the Lost Prophets, it's all done. It's all over. Like even those poor bastards in Lost Prophets, the guys who had nothing to do with his bloody awful crimes, I don't even think they've started over again. It could be wrong, but I'm not aware. But so there's that aspect of it. So yeah, definitely you can go, well, when I say way too far, there's things that are so taboo that they just kill everything. But look, I think with Roger, we live in a democracy, and I think that's a wonderful thing. I tend to be a bit of a free speech absolutist. It's not that I agree with all of these extreme views at all. Of course I don't. But I think we need to live in a society where sunlight kills bacteria. So if you've got these views, put them out to the public and have them tested. I can't agree with censorship on basically almost any level at all. And that's using under the iron rod of common sense, I say that. But in terms of legacy, no, I don't think. Look, he speaks. So I really enjoyed listening to him on Joe Rogan's show, I've got to say, because it was probably the first time I felt that he was in a position where he had a big enough audience, and maybe he realised that, and he could be articulate and express his views in a way that they were coherent. I don't even agree with them, but they were coherent. A lot of the time he's up on stage and he's wearing those fake Nazi outfits and shit, and it's ridiculous. It's a parody of a parody. So I don't think he's in any danger, because he grew up in the British grammar school system, and so a lot of it is still informed with an element of critical thinking, a strong element of critical thinking. So I don't think he'll ever take it too far. But in general, I think it just depends on how much of how did it impact culture, for example? Like if you've got a legacy, how much of it is entwined with culture? And the smart ones, like I don't like Bon Jovi at all, as you can appreciate, but he seems to have been smart enough just to sort of stand back and let everybody have an opinion and do their thing about his very ordinary and middle-of-the-road music. And in that way, do I think his legacy, because he hasn't attracted any controversy or attention outside of his music, do I think it will be will his music stand the test of time, maybe played in 100 years' time? Maybe not. Do I think Rogers will be? Now, not for the reasons that I've just outlined, but I think, in 100 years' time, people will appreciate Pink Floyd and they'll go there. Whereas I think Bon Jovi is just music that's played in shopping centres and strip clubs, basically, at the moment. The two S's.
You couldn't have picked two things further apart, could you? Like a shopping centre and a strip joint.
Because I think my most recent travails to both, I think that's what I heard. So I definitely heard. you hear that shit that sounds like vague and new metal in some of these strip clubs. Now, I'm only saying that, it's years ago. So before anybody thinks that, you're a man with a family, what are you doing going to a strip club? We're blokes and, people sort of drag you places on Bucks nights or whatever it might be. But last time I was in a strip club, they were playing, it sounded like, I think it's a band called Dope. It's a new metal band. I don't know whether it was that band, but when I heard Dope, it was like, that's what I think that was. It was like this electronic new metal shit. And they seemed to dance right around to that stuff.
New metal was a weird one because at the time, I think it was just pretty much, oh my God, a lot of people that I hung out with got like, oh, this is crap and stuff like that. And to be fair, a lot of it was absolutely awful after a while. Because I think the same thing as like with any genre happened. You got a couple of bands that did some cool stuff. Like, I'm not going to lie, I liked Korn when they first came out, then kind of didn't like them for a while because I just wasn't into what they were doing.
Yeah.
And then they said they suddenly got really good at writing songs again. And then I got back into them. But then there's other bands which were just absolutely just awful. Beyond awful.
Well, the genre has survived intact. It's morphed into other things, and the biggest bands always break out anyway. So the only two that I know of are Korn and Limp Bizkit. Outside of that, you could burn me with a soldering iron, and I could barely tell you what a band was called.
All genres do that, don't you? You get like a couple of breakout bands, and everyone decides they're going to do the same thing after that because obviously, doing the same thing as everybody else is going to get you a ton of success. If you copy someone else, which goes back to that, you can't copy a band, and all the record labels at the time would go like, oh yeah, this stuff's selling. Let's put any old band's album out, just promote it, and it doesn't really matter if they're good or not as long as they look the part. And this happens with every genre, I think. You get that initial. Is this some kind of life cycle? Where you get some pioneers who do something new but never really actually make any money off it because they were the first people and no one really understood what they were doing. Then you get like a band that sees like, oh, this is really cool, but they're still themselves, like a kind of a second wave. And then that just suddenly gets absolutely massive with a couple of other bands at the same time. And then that leads to that bit afterwards where everyone kind of scrambles to, I know, like seagulls trying to go for the last couple of chips on the beach and it's fighting about it. And you get a massive thing. And then everyone just goes like, oh, this is so saturated. I'm really bored of it now. And then the whole thing implodes.
Yeah, you're spot on.
20 years later, you come back to.
Yeah, you're not wrong. And I remember when the new metal thing ended, then it was like, oh, what's going to come along next? This is all, the internet was
metal, wasn't it?
Well, even I'm talking about stuff that impacts, like, that gets played in the shopping centres and stuff. Like, you walk around like the city or whatever, and you see people wearing the t-shirts. And remember, it was the Jet thing, the Jet and the Vines, and that, the Hives, the bands. Remember they came along afterwards, the garage rock thing.
I think I kind of avoided that because it just wasn't my thing at all. But I think I know what you mean. Yeah, every single band had to have the in front of it.
Yeah. There was that.
Kind of terrible because I really like having the in front of a band name for quite a while, but then that kind of killed it because they took all the cool names, they put the in front of it, and left none for anyone else.
Yes, you're not wrong. Yeah, I remember being in a band trying to come up with a band name at the time, and the one thing that we agreed was, and it was just because it was a reflection of what we thought, going back to the original comment about record companies and throwing a bunch of money at you to record something, we had to have a the in front of it. So I think we were called The Sword, and there was already a band. I didn't know there was already a band called The Sword around, but we called ourselves The Sword or The Swords or something like that. And we thought, well, that'll be a name that at least we don't have to change. We don't have to go through that process, thinking that was the most important thing we had to consider. But yeah, I think after the garage rock thing, the internet kicked in, and it was just the MySpace was really MySpace, and it all fragmented and shattered apart. And then to your point about metalcore started to, it had been around for a few years by then, but started to rise. And then deathcore came along, and now it's just the last 15 years. It's just been get into whatever the hell you want. There's a market there.
I know. Talking about metalcore. I don't know. Is Killswitch metalcore? I think they are, aren't they?
Who's that? Sorry,
Killswitch Engage. Because I remember hearing their first album. Some guy that I knew, he was like a DJ at like a London clubs, and he had this advanced CD, and we were sitting there just having a drink until the early hours of the morning. He said, "You need to listen to this." So we put it on, and we played it like 5 times straight, and I missed a flight because of it.
Oh, really? Wow.
I remember that album being genius. That first Killswitch album was like, oh man, this is really, really good. So at that time, I think you could kind of see it was just going to explode, like for all that kind of stuff. So it was so good what they did.
I remember I didn't listen to the album, and I still haven't, to be honest with you. I don't think I've even had an opportunity to interview one of those guys, but I did see them when they played alongside of Anthrax, when Joey Vera was playing in Anthrax in 2003 or 4, I think it was. And they made an impression back then. They seemed like a great band. I don't know whether I thought they were as revolutionary, though. But then the media, I tended to avoid bands that the media said, remember the thing about Killswitch Engage was the band that killed new metal. Here they are. And that was what the media and what the Roadrunner or whoever they were on was touting at the time.
Yeah.
And I remember, and that actually put me off, and not because I didn't want new metal to die or what have you. I just thought it's just the media. At that point, you could see what was going on. You could see the game, the setup that was happening. So I just avoided it and went back to listening to whatever it was.
No, I think that when that first album came out, it was just like, we didn't have a name for it. We just went, this has all the cool stuff, all the Swedish stuff that we're listening to, and it's got like some big dose of melody. But it's really well blended together. I just remember going, this is amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, I tended to, how's the best way of framing this? I'm an In Flames absolutist. So unless a band can sort of match what Jesper was doing on those albums there, and I did listen to enough of them to hear that they were inspired by that sound and, At the Gates and Carcass. Yeah. I could hear that they were inspired by that stuff, but I thought my thinking has always been this, and it's changed a little bit, but if something reminded me too much of something else, why would I bother listening to that? I'll just go back and listen to the source.
So if you're an In Flames absolutist, what's your take on the halo effect then?
Oh, they're good. I've interviewed most of the band members. Yeah, you're right.
Is it more In Flames than In Flames is?
Oh, these days, no doubt, no question about that at all. And I've spoken to Bjorn about this too, because Anders is a bit cagey about things. But Bjorn, I feel like you can have more of a longer conversation. Bjorn is still in Flames, obviously. So you got to get your Swens and your Bjorns careful, I think, when you're talking about the Swedes, But Bjorn will at least allow you to talk to him about the change in the band's sound. Anders won't. So that's my point. So Anders will say, we control, I think his comment to me was when I tried to talk to him about it, was, we control this shit, nobody else, and shut it down. Whereas Bjorn's like, yeah, but members come and go, and we're the ones that are in the band, and we're not writing. And I believe him. I actually believe him. He's one of the few that I would believe on face value when he says that they haven't changed their sound for commercial reasons. They probably just got bored doing it. And the other thing is, you've got to keep in mind too, Jesper exited around 2008 or 9. And Jesper was the driving force musically in the band. He had been, you can tell, because as soon as he stepped out, the sound changed. Now, that's what happened, in my view, was that with Jesper no longer there, Bjorn then became the chief songwriter. That's just how Bjorn writes, and he's more in tune with what's going on in the modern world. And I think that summarizes it.
That's definitely does sound to me like that would be the case. And the thing with In Flames is, I'm not saying they're bad or anything at all, because I'll just quite happily listen to them. I thought the last stuff they put out, I don't know, in a cheeky way, I kind of thought it sounded a bit like a reaction to the Halo effect existing, because it was punchy and fast again and all that kind of stuff. But I don't mind the melodic stuff either. I mean, I think it takes balls as a band to actually be experimental and move away from a sound and do it well. Even if you might have a couple of misses here and there, but then still sound like yourself, which I think in Flames' case has a lot to do with Anders' voice. It just so instantly recognizable. Most singers are, but in his case, and yeah, so to keep a band going that long and still do interesting things, even if old fans don't agree with them, you might find like there's new people that do, and that's kind of how you keep a band fresh, really, isn't it?
Yeah, agreed. And look, their success is nobody can question whatever the reasons are for their success. Nobody can question that they're not successful. So, for example, they played, when they played in Mexico, they played before Deep Purple to an arena that holds somewhere in the vicinity of I think I said to Bjorn, or I think I said to Bjorn, it was a 100,000 seat arena. I think it was something. It's actually something like 140,000. Now I don't know if it was full or what have you when In Flames went on, but Deep Purple and these management types, they don't bring on bands and aren't going to attract or entertain an audience. They just don't do it. You know that. Okay, so whatever it is that they're doing, it is working. They've got a fan base, whether or not. It's a bit like the Cradle thing where there's blokes like me who listened to the older stuff and then sort of went away, and but if there's still interest there, we'll go along and watch the band or what have you. But I don't know, mate. They seem to have two fairly distinct divisions in their career, and maybe they've got two sets of fans, and some of the older fans like me will turn up and hope to hear something off Jester, but who knows? I don't know. I've got to be honest, man, I haven't seen them live. And I don't know whether I would these days. I'd probably far more likely. Well, I am seeing the Halo Effect. They're coming down here soon. So the Jesper isn't playing with them. So I'll still try and catch up with the guys. Not that I don't know them or anything like that, but it's just nice to say, hey, great work, guys. I like what you're doing here. It's sounding a bit In Flamesy, and I think that's a really cool thing, keeping that older strain of the band alive.
So one of my favorite memories of In Flames is someone gave me Oracle, lent it to me as a CD, and I just didn't get it back for like ages because I put it in, started listening to it, and that was kind of it. It was like, oh, this is really, really cool. And that's my first actual, being exposed to In Flames. And I just really like the fact that it was so, I don't know, it's almost progressive in places. Am I right?
Yeah, maybe. Absolutely. Almost some Spanish flamenco style flourishes as well, courtesy.
It had this whole different thing to it, but it just wasn't just one thing. They'd thrown some extra stuff, some extra sauce into it, and it was really, really cool.
The other thing too I find is, well, for my listening tastes, okay, they're the only band that could rival Iron Maiden, nowhere near the scale, of course, but they had 4 or 5 absolute bangers one after the other. So Jester, Race, Horacle, Colony, and then Clayman, okay? So you have 4. You got 4 there in a row where all of the songs are good. And they're the only other band outside of Iron Maiden that I feel did that. And after that, it sort of shifted a lot. It's Soundtrack to Your Escape. That album was when things really changed. But really, those 4 albums there, they just rolled gold. And it like we talked about this a little bit. I say Slayer have got 3 albums, from Rain in Blood to Seasons, and Megadeth, well, we'll see how many. I don't know. On reflection, they're a bit more patchy. Anthrax, I'm not even really that sure about. Metallica got 2 or 3 or 4, depending on your perspective on things. But I think it was more noteworthy when In Flames did it because it was much further along. It was 20 years after Kill 'Em All came out, and they were still capable of doing that. And that was when I still think albums are important, but bands who can write very strong albums, man, especially if you can write albums with between 10 and 15 songs on them, and you can do it 4 or 5 times in a row like that, man, there's something very special happening with the band.
Yeah, that's true. Because that's quite a long time to keep it up as well and still actually have new ideas.
Yeah. Well, maybe they just burnt out. I don't know. Jesper, this is public knowledge. Everybody knows this, but Jesper's had a lot of issues with alcohol over the years. When I spoke to him, he seemed really well, but he's definitely under he can't travel, for example. He can't come to a place like Australia. It's far too long for him to be away from maybe support networks or whatever it might be. But it's a real shame. I would love to have love to enter into an alternative universe where you can hear Jesper be fully in control and hear what his music would sound like, because he's doing great work with Syra and the Halo Effect. But as I say, mate, In Flames, they were just special.
Yeah, but there's quite a few bands that do that one special thing. They have that little golden area. You go, this is really good, but then I don't know. It's really hard to keep it up an entire career, isn't it? So actually, it's probably impossible.
Yeah, no, I agree. And there's a couple of reasons why that's the case. It's a lot of bands are run out of. It's like the Metallica thing. Now, this might be controversial. Here we go. Okay, when
get some in there somewhere.
Yeah, got to do it. Got to be done. Look, I think Metallica started sounding shit when they ran out of Dave Mustaine's ideas. Okay, now it's not as ridiculous as what it sounds. Okay, I know all the peanut gallery going, "How dare you defile my metal heroes?" But look, there's Dave Mustaine's he's gone on record as saying that some of his riffs are on Master of Puppets. Okay, now, and Justice for All, forget about the production and the no bass thing or whatever. The songs are there. The songs are great. They're labyrinthine. They're enormous. But that might have been those guys, or James or Lars and Kirk. I'm not saying that they based everything on Dave. I'm not saying that. Far from that. I'm just saying that Dave Mustaine was such a powerhouse back in those days that his ideas were so enormous that they could power two bands effectively in a way. So, of course, Megadeth. But his songs were certainly credited up until the first two albums. So it's not a stretch to believe him and say that, especially as at Leper Messiah. To me, Leper Messiah just sounds like a Dave, dun, 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 dun. Dun, 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 dun. That's just got Dave Mustaine written all over it. So if that's the song, I'd believe it. But you got to think there's that competitive element of it too, and Metallica was still intact. So yeah, it's when bands have to be inspired is the point. There you go. Bands have to be inspired, and when they lose that inspiration, it just becomes a job. And I've picked on Slayer a little bit, but only because I think those three albums from 1988 to 1990 was so 1986 to 1990 was so fantastic that I haven't really been able to listen to their stuff afterwards as an adult fan. I can't really listen to anything from what's the album from 1994 with the skull, the different artwork on it. I can't remember what that album's called. Someone's yelling at me about it now, but with Ditto Head on it. Yeah, that one. And what's that?
Divine Intervention, isn't it?
That's the one. That's the bloody one. Yeah. It just doesn't stand up. I'm sorry, but the riffs aren't there. It was recorded in different. I don't even think the band was present in that one. Meaning that for that one and the follow up, though, Jeff certainly wasn't present on Diabolus and Musica. He checked out by then. But Divine Intervention was recorded in multiple studios, so it was very patchy. So there's technical reasons why it didn't sound that great.
Still not a bad album, though. It's still got all the aggression, which I think kind of disappeared. Because I don't know what's the one after Divine Intervention. You got the Punk Covers album, which I still thought was kind of fun.
Yes, same. God Hates Us All is the 2001 album, so that's effectively the follow up to Diabolus and Musica. Yeah.
I was.
But I mean, can you seriously? Can you be
honest? I already struggled with Slayer a lot of the time anyway. Before I saw them live, it was only once I saw them live that I actually understood them. Up until that point, I just didn't get it. Weirdly, but after that, I was like, "Oh yeah, now I see why." So they were never really as much of an influence on me. I don't think. I mean, I had like friends who were well into Slayer and stuff like that, and you go around slapping Slayer and stuff like that, But for me, I think it was always Megadeth and a bit of Metallica from that kind of era, and like yourself, Anthrax, I didn't really ever quite get. I listened to them because they were there and they were Anthrax, and the Sound of White Noise, I think, is an absolutely immensely good album.
Great. Yeah.
Then I listened to the earlier stuff. I just find it too clowny. That makes sense. It's just.
Yeah, no, I understand what you're saying.
It never felt. It felt like a band that was like portraying themselves. We don't take anything seriously, but in doing so, it was seriously projecting an image of not being serious, if that makes any sense at all. Like it didn't feel quite like.
Yeah, no, I agree. I didn't think that they were the. I certainly had those older albums. I got into the look. Okay, I want to be clear here. I got Sound of White Noise first, or no, POT, Persistence of Time. Sorry, and
that one's good as well. I like that. Like that one and the Sound of White Noise, even though they changed to John Bush, but on that album, his vocals works and the whole atmosphere of the album just works really well for him and the band.
Yeah, I agree with you totally though about the clown aspect of the band. They were at their best when they embraced their dark side, and that's what they did with Persistence of Time. They stopped fooling around effectively, but I think they also realised that they couldn't work with Joey Belladonna around about that point too, and that's why the music shifted into more of a. It was weird. They're the only band that turned into a rock band and got heavier. So they got heavier on Stomp 442 and Sound of White Noise, in my opinion, and it just worked. And then when they lost John, I was like, what are you guys going to do? And then I saw them. So when they toured Australia in 2004, I think it was, as I say, with Joey Vera and John on vocals, so half of Armored Saint. And then they toured a year later with Joey, and they weren't better, I can assure you. It wasn't like as if it was like, oh, the band's back again and, all the fans are happy, mate. I thought that, to be honest, the quality went down a notch with Joey out front. Now, I'm drawing on an almost 20-year memory here, 17, 18-year memory here, but it's intact. I'm not abused my brain too much or alcohol. So it's intact. I just felt like John had the power in his voice to match what Scott's right hand was doing, and same thing with what's his name? Charlie's drumming as well. That really sort of, because he's really ahead of the beat, isn't he, Charlie? He's really rushes the beat. And John's voice suited that, I think, a lot more than what Joey's did. But is it King of All Kings or the last worship music and the last one that they did? No, they're serviceable. They got a couple of really good songs, and I think that's the issue with Anthrax overall, is that the albums lack consistency. Except for Sound of White Noise. That's the only consistent album that they've brought out.
I don't know. Persistence of Time is still pretty good. Come on.
Oh, it's a great album. I just don't find, as I move into middle age, I just don't find it's an album I can put on. Whereas Stomp 442 in particular, now I love that album, so that's my favourite from theirs. But that's just a personal thing.
They kind of lost me.
Oh, really? Yeah. No, that was
Sound of White Noise. I just got lost, and they disappeared for a while. They didn't do anything, and then I think Dan Spitz wasn't there anymore, so it kind of like seemed like you just don't know what's going on. And by the time I actually hear the album, it's been so long that I kind of lost interest in all things Anthrax, which is probably about the same time as I lost all interest in all things Metallica, because they just completely just self-destructed in my view.
Yeah,
I mean, it might people can like the Load Reload album. I've heard plenty of people that do like it, but it's just nah. But I'm one of the people that still likes the Black Album. I think it's actually a really good album. I think it's just a victim of its own success. That it was so successful that I think it put all the Metallica fans' nose out of joint in that it was so successful. If it hadn't have done that well, and they'd still have had their band without everyone else in the world knowing about it, I think it would be much more. They'd see it much more as an album that was really good.
Yeah, I see your point, and it was a great album. It is a great album. You're right. It was produced within an inch of its life, so it's very hard to sort of listen to it. It's very samey. I'm not saying it's compressed. I'm saying that the dynamic is very similar. So it's a broad dynamic, but it's very similar throughout. The songs are
amazing, though. It's really, really good. It's like everything on the album just sounds great.
It's almost too perfect is probably what I'm saying. There's no flaws in it. That's what I mean by that.
True.
Yeah, but it's not devoid of characters. It's not devoid. It's nowhere near as shit as the heavy metal absolutists want to say. But yeah, I would agree with them and say that it wasn't an album that was enduring for me personally. That will always be the big one, Master of Puppets. That's pretty much where the band. Well, the two albums will always be Ride the Lightning and Master of Puppets, because when I was 15 through to maybe 18, 19, that was two of the most played albums like that Angel Dust and a few other things, right? Faith No More, that Primus, some of the Cradle stuff. It was just that was it. But how much money did we have to spend on CDs when we were 15 and 16? You had fuck all, right? So what you had, you played to death,
and you borrowed off people and played that to death, and then
recorded it. Yeah,
you bought your own copy, or you recorded it on the tape. That used to be good. It's kind of like, oh, when can I have my CD back? Oh, yeah, I'm recording it the tape this evening. You record a tape, then you listen to that tape to death. But no, for me, the Metallica albums, they were always like, and Justice for All, because, I first kind of heard them when I heard that One song. Yeah, that was brilliant. And I think like years later when I picked up guitar, that's like one of the ones I really wanted to learn how to play along, Enter Sandman and Wherever We May Roam and stuff like that. So for me, it was always like, and Justice for All and the Black Album. And then Master Puppets was all right. Ride the Lightning's all right. First Kill 'Em All is all right as well. And I all like those albums, but then, there's Megadeth and they did Rust in Peace, and no one can top Rust in Peace. And I will die on that hill. No one can make a better fresh speed metal album than Rust in Peace.
Mm. No, I'd agree, except that I think I go between that and Rain in Blood, I've got to say.
I mean, Rain in Blood's got the aggression, it's got the speed, but Rust in Pieces has everything. It's got aggression, it's got tempo changes. It's a more complete album, and it's technically far more proficient than Rain in Blood. Rain in Blood is basically chaos in a little bottle. In a 20-minute long bottle or something like that. I don't know how long is that album. It's 30 or 20 minutes, but I
don't even think it's 30 minutes. Yeah, it's a hell of a. Let me see. I'll check it out.
Rain and Blood is basically like
28:55, mate. It's not even half an hour, but it feels longer. Yeah.
Yeah, but you're on the floor. You're being relentlessly being punched in the head for 28 minutes. And that's what makes it absolutely brilliant. But I don't think it's the best one because it's got that one facet. Whereas I think Rust in Peace, it just has a bit of everything. It has, it has a songwriting, it has a technicality, and it's got Marty Friedman on guitar, which makes the whole thing is just. I don't think there's not a bad song on the album.
Yeah, you've convinced me. I love that album back in the day. I don't want to say otherwise, but I got into Rust in Peace a lot of way before I even. See, the thing about Slayer was that because I was already into death metal, I kind of took a view that what's the point listening to Slayer because I'm already into the heavy shit. And when you're listening to Morbid Angel and Trey's guitar playing in particular, it makes a lot of other guitarists sound. It's not that they're underwhelming or what have you, but Trey's so all encompassing. He does everything. So. I tended to just when I wanted an extreme music fix, I just went straight to Trey's playing in Morbid Angel, of course. And later on, I got into Slayer and probably, oh God, I'll admit this now, it was maybe 2005 or 6 or something like that. By the time I finally came around to the Slayer train, and that's when I had iTunes and downloaded Rain in Blood. So I was already 30 or something like that by that stage because I missed them completely the first time around. I just ignored them, to be honest. And I remember it was great gym music. It was really good when I was bored, like in the train, those long train rides between the Gold Coast and Brisbane, and great putting them on for that. And it's something about it just spoke to me. And I thought, wow, man. And then I went back and got the other 2 albums, and I've got them in the car on, I think I've got all 3. So Seasons, Rain in Blood. What's the other one? Yeah, I've got them all 3. South of Heaven. Yeah, I've got them in the car, and when the kids aren't in the car, I tend to put them on.
I will give Slayer this though, that those 3 albums, if you actually look at them, they've got like an amazing evolution between all of them. They could have so easily made like Rain in Blood Part 2, just another fast album. But then they went and did South of Heaven. I love that album. But it's not Raining Blood Part 2 at all. So that would have pissed some people off when that came out. And then you've got Seasons in the Abyss, which is just, I don't know, just way better songwriting than both of the other two.
Yeah, and then it just stopped. I don't know what the hell happened, but maybe grunge came along and it changed their perspective on things. And see, we're old enough to remember when grunge came in, and grunge, well, I don't believe for a moment that it killed everything, because bands like Morbid Angel got major label deals after the grunge thing exploded. People have got to remember that when they're hating on grunge and the alternative boom, is that all of a sudden it made weird bands palatable to corporate culture, to the boardroom. And so there were some stupid deals that were around, but I don't believe for a moment even the earache bands, well, of course, Morbid Angel is one of them, but the earache bands and a lot of the Roadrunner bands, they were popular beforehand, but they became as popular as I think you could possibly get after the grunge boom, because there were some of those people who listened to Nirvana and particularly Soundgarden and Corrosion of Conformity and these killer bands like Corrosion, and they went, well, I want something a bit darker and a bit heavier, and that's when they made the jump to Entombed and bands like that.
I actually think just because grunge was still guitar based, that you could actually, it was very easy to listen to both. There's not that big a hop between the two kind of things. Yeah, like the metal's a bit faster, a bit more aggressive. Then you got the grunge, which is darker thing. Then you got Alice in Chains that straddle the two kind of in between. So it was more of like I think a blurred line.
Yeah, no,
so,
you're not wrong.
I don't think grunge didn't kill metal. It probably did kill hair metal quite badly. I mean, all those bands suddenly just were not cool at all.
Yeah, definitely, yeah.
Half the metal bands are wearing flannel shirts anyway, just because they're wearing flannel shirts, not because it's grunge. It's like, so yeah, no, grunge didn't kill metal. Because then what? New metal came along. I think that was actually worse than grunge, to be honest, if I look at it, because it's just, the songs just weren't there. Whereas at least with grunge, you had some really interesting stuff going on. If you look at like some of those bands, like I know, like Mother Love Bone, which became Pearl Jam themselves, they were all songs which weren't meant to be commercial in a way. It was almost like kind of being anti-commercial in a lot of things, but still did really, really well. And then after that, it just became all about, having sing-along choruses and stuff like that to kind of get you up there. But the whole grunge metal thing in the beginning of the 90s, I think that there's a lot of stuff that jumped over from one to the other.
Yeah, no, I agree completely. Yeah. The hair metal thing was, the hair metal, it stopped it for a little bit, but then people have got to remember too, Bon Jovi were still huge through that period with Keep the Faith and whatever the follow-up album was, Have a Nice Day, or there were even, I don't know, I'm not a fan. So, but I just remember you'd be in a supermarket and you'd hear bloody Bon Jovi coming over the speaker, and it's like, is that an old song or a new song? You couldn't tell. But the point is they were huge through that period. And the other thing too was the grunge boom coincided with the hip hop thing. So you had Tupac and all of those other rappers and those hip hop artists coming out there as well. So music was changing anyway. And the hair metal thing was the one benefit. I'll tell you, the one benefit that it did have was that all of a sudden you'd see albums like Pride from White Line in the bargain basement bin for like $5.
Yeah, which means like
yeah, and that's all I could afford. So you get 2 or 3 of these albums, and they ended up being pretty bloody good, actually.
I've always liked hair metal. I'm never gonna shy away from that. There were some really good bands, some amazing guitar players. Like I think the Extreme second album is probably still one of my favorite things to listen to, just because of the guitar playing. For the whole thing. Yeah. Because Nuno Bettencourt is just like, he's totally on fire on that album. It's an amazing thing to listen through. But yeah, I think that's kind of one thing I did miss in the 90s a bit, was the technicality of some of the players. No one really wanted to show off in terms of grunge and stuff like that. But then you had Pantera come along, and that was definitely all about the solos and stuff like that. But you kind of like lost out on it a little bit. And I think that's back now in vogue. Like there's loads of technical guitar playing out there in the moment, which is cool to see. But there'll probably be like, some kind of backlash against that at some point. And everyone will start playing simple stuff again, and the cycle will go round and round again.
It's almost too technical at the moment. So I'm not picking on Archspire, by the way, but I just saw them with my mates in Werewolves and Ingest, I think, or Ingest. Sorry, I can't remember the name of the band. They're a British band the band from Manchester anyway. Good guys too, or the singer is. So I had a good chat to him. But Archspire, I just found it was too much. It's one of the I had to go home anyway because it was getting late and I had to go to work, the next day and get the kids up and all the rest of it. But it was an easy excuse because I just found it was an onslaught. And I've interviewed the drummer before, really cool guy too. All these people are so cool. But I just found the way the live mixing was done, it sounded almost like Santanga. And then you had all the wiggly diddly stuff on top of it. And at its core, it might just be because of the era that I came through over, but I have to have there has to be an element of melody in there. I have to be able to identify that there's a groove there. If I can't, then I tend to tune out. It's just natural. It tends to be where my melodic sensibilities head. And there's other bands around too that do the widdly, I call it the widdly diddly stuff, the solos for solos' sake stuff. So almost entire songs are just solos. Lucas Mann from Rings of Saturn is another one that does it quite well. But I just found when I was watching Archspire, it's like respect the hell out of what they're doing, like what they're doing in their own way, but it's just not for me personally. So yeah, it might be a reflection of the era that I came from. I don't know. Just could be personal preference anyway.
It could be because there is tech depth that I'll listen to and go, like, that's really, really clever. And then I also realize I'll never be able to play it. So, I have massive respect for those guys that they can put it off that tightly. It's like that takes a lot of practice. And, for 3 or 4 songs, I could be into it and go, this is really, really cool. But then I find it's, as you say, it becomes too much of a good thing. And then you don't have a slow song because they don't have a slow song because that's not technical enough kind of thing. So you don't have that contrast that I really like. Like my favorite stuff is when you get some ultra technical passages, but you get a contrast with something that's completely different, which means the ultra technical thing has that much more impact than if it was just like 5 minutes of technical stuff.
I'm with you. Yeah, Ingested, that was the name of the band. Yeah, too. And look, they all put on a great show, but apart from Werewolves don't do it, but the other 2 bands, Archspire and Ingested, had backing tracks going on too. And I could hear they even had subs, like, that sound. They had that going on. And I thought, isn't that interesting? We've evolved to a point where it almost sounds like hardcore techno. On a live perspective, that's what Archspire actually reminded me of. It's like all of that stuff. But the popularity of the group, it was the first time, the Zoo in Brisbane, it was the first time I'd seen, I'm sure this happened before, but I'm saying when I've seen it, a lineup around the block. There were hundreds of people there, and I know Dicey, the promoter, I said, man, look at this place, man. Look at you, you've done it. And I ended up saying, how did you know that it was going to be this way? And I'll tell you off record later on, how the promoters and the agents sort of get a feel for, well, what he said to me is what I'm saying. But yeah, it's, to me, Archspire wouldn't pull more than like 100 people maybe in a town like Brisbane. But, mate, here you are, a packed out zoo.
Archspire is definitely one of those bands. They're well known. They're pretty good. They're really good at what they do. So it doesn't surprise me they pull the big crowd and stuff like that. I just know that for me, it's like I've got a boredom threshold when listening to stuff that confuses my brain too much, to be honest. After a while, it becomes too much. I can listen to it and go like, this is really, really cool. I'll sit there and analyze it all the way through. But then I want to go listen to something else. So that's the same thing. It's very rare that any band really holds my attention for long anymore. I think I've just become, I don't know. It's like the moving with the times when no one has the attention span they used to have.
No, I'm with you. Don't worry. I find the same. It's difficult. And one of the advantages of doing podcasting and at the occasional review that I do is that you're forced to listen to something. So your frequency shifts, so you block out all of the outside noise. I've got to pay this bill, or got to pick up the kids by 4:30, or dance classes are on, or what have you. And you're like, just focus on listening to the album, because what you write, people are going to be reading and they can comment on. So, keep your reputation intact by putting some credible stuff out there if you're commenting on bands. blowing this up right now, commenting on all these bands on a podcast, But anyway, it was.
I have to edit some of this stuff out.
Mate, you got to slaughter your sacred cows, right? Haven't you?
Yeah. Oh, come on. It's like there's bands I like, there's periods of music I like by bands, and after that I'm as opinionated as everyone else going, actually after that I didn't think it was very good. So, you got to die on that hill basically. Sometimes you can't just go around saying everything is amazing, everything is good, even Santanga's an amazing piece of work. You just can't do that. There's going to be stuff that you don't like and you do like. And that's the whole point about, being able to talk to people about it. Because some people go like, what do you mean you don't like this? And I go like, no, I absolutely hate it. And then they'll just go. Then you find people will talk for half an hour about why this one album by this one band that you absolutely hate for them is the greatest thing ever. And at the end of it, you'll go, they've got a point, but I still hate it.
Yeah, I made the mistake.
Isn't it?
I'm just laughing because once I made the mistake, I thought I was trying to, when I say promote the show, how there are all those Cradle of Filth forums on Facebook?
Yeah.
Okay, I made the mistake once of joining one and sharing, I think it was a chat with Stuart or might have been the one with Greg, I can't recall now, but I shared it. Holy shit. Responses that I got to that were like, how dare you talk about Danny Filth this way? He's my hero, all this sort of shit. I'm like going, who am I interacting? Eventually, I think I didn't take it down. I left it there, but I'm reading these comments through. But man, you see how tightly, and I'm not, just to be clear, it's not like I've talked shit about Danny at all. I've just expressed my preferences for the musicians, and it's the musicians' contribution that I appreciate because it's the musicians who I'm listening to. The vocals, they're important and they play a significant role. But for me as a musician, it's not that I block Danny out. He just isn't the main focus of why I listened to Cradle of Filth. And that's all I've said. And then getting into the nuance of it, there's other comments that come up. But yeah, you go.
But that's the weird thing. And I think what you point out there is like as like someone who's as a musician that you listen to the music and the vocals just become an instrument. I mean, I remember a time way back in the past before I picked up a guitar when I could write down all the lyrics to all my favorite albums by heart without even listening to them. I could take a piece of paper and I'd be able to write them all down word for word. And then I picked up a guitar and then I couldn't. Because everything kind of changed because I started listening to everything completely differently.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Ever since then, people go like, but what about the vocals? And I go, I have a really hard time hearing. Maybe it's hearing loss. It's probably part of it. I mean, I can't hear conversations in cars, but maybe that's like, having trained your ear to just listen to music and how everything fits together musically. But I can't, I don't understand lyrics. It takes me a lot of effort to actually listen to lyrics and understand what they are because I just switch off after a while and just go back to listening to the music.
Yep, and it's been like that for a very long time for me. I've got to say, it was probably you know what band for me broke the back of that stuff. It was Living Colour because I'm such a huge Living Colour fan back in the day, and trying to mimic Doug Wimbish's playing, being a bass player. And it was really then that Faith No More a little bit, Primus never, because there's no way you can mimic Les Claypool's playing. But Living Colour, I thought, it's technical enough that I might be able to play parts of this song. This is when you used to have to get the tablature in the back of Guitar World and shit. So, and I'm not saying there was a moment, but after that, I just remember it was like, well, when I'm listening to Fishbone or bands as disparate as Fishbone or Cradle of Filth or whatever, I want to focus on, when I'm listening to it this time, I'm focusing on the guitars or the drums or the bass, if I can ever hear the bass. That's what was going on. It was almost never the vocal. And that because it was around about when I got into Living Colour that I thought maybe I can be a musician and I started playing in bands. That's what happened.
Yeah, it's when you start listening to stuff and picking it apart and trying to hear the bits that you want to learn to play, then you just kind of start singing the vocals as an instrument, which actually, weirdly, I think is one of the reasons why I just didn't have any problem with death metal vocals at one point. It's like, because when you first start out, you hear this kind of stuff, you hear videos and you're a young kid and go like, oh my God, I can't understand the words. But then I think with everyone that gets into extreme metal, suddenly it kind of clicks and you go like, oh, it's just another instrument just screaming over the top of things, which just kind of adds something completely different to it. It's not a song, it's just scream and it's got like guttural growls. And you go, I don't really care about the lyrics. I mean, for a lot of the 90s death metal, the lyrics were absolutely hilarious. But I don't think the PMRC or whatever thought they were that hilarious. But, when you opened the book into this kind of stuff and went, it's just like some proper, I don't know, it's just words thrown together to sound like some weird torture thing. Everyone trying to be more extreme in their lyrics than the last band that you'd find. And my friends used to read for like death metal lyrics and just laugh our asses off going, oh my God, have you seen this shit?
Yeah, I remember being a good young Christian. I remember having Legion and reading the lyrics I think the lyrics were lyrics were definitely certainly in the copy that I had, but Satan Spawned the Coca Demon, I think it was the first song or the second song on that album. And you read the lyrics and that, and you're like, am I reading an invocation? Is the devil going to visit me tonight if I finish reading these lyrics? And yeah, it was so out there and so full on at the time. But isn't it incredible that nearly 30 years later or so, that those lyrics, they aren't the most extreme thing out there. The most extreme thing that I can point to is like Wet Ass Pussy and that stuff that's aimed at kids by Cardi B. I mean,
it's way worse.
Oh, way worse. I know. We might have talked about it when we first chatted, but I listened to some of the lyrics in some of the songs that the kids would listen on YouTube. And believe me, clearly I'm not a prude being into heavy metal and death metal and black metal, but mate, give me satanic black and death metal anytime over some of the shit in the lyrics that they're listening to that I can hear now.
I think it's the whole thing is that it literally has always been like theatre to me. Like metal is always theatre. It's always got a sense of bombast to it, of something like, just like I don't know. The lyrics are like the bit D&D and stuff like that. You can get really dorky with them if you go into power metal with all the castles and dragons and shit. Like, Rhapsody's album of the coconut horseshoe sounds at the beginning is still just absolutely amazing to listen to. It still makes me crack up because it's so good. And then they suddenly get that actor guy, I can't remember his name now. They get him to narrate the whole album. And I was like,
yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah.
And I was like, amazing. And you can't just get better than that. I mean, it's just, you just look at lyrics and you just kind of know that to really believe in that stuff, it's really, really out there. But a lot of that stuff is just written because it sounded cool rather than people actually meant it.
Symphony of Enchanted Lands 2, The Dark Secret. I had to look that up actually with Christopher Lee. There you go.
And that's an amazing title. Come on. You've got to give it to them. That's an amazing title.
Oh, it's unreal. I've actually spoken to Luca before. He doesn't do a lot of interviews, but I've had a good chat to him. He's a hilarious fellow. I get the impression that he'd be really fun to have on a tour bus. Doesn't drink.
Never know.
Like all the real crazies, mate, doesn't drink.
Yeah, you get a lot of people saying they don't trust someone who doesn't drink. So I guess I'm these days untrustworthy. But nah, I don't think this is the bit where you edit it out because I completely forgot what I was going to say. It's like get a snip and you get the YouTube head go to that side like that when there's really bad cuts.
But when it's halfway through, you're saying something, and does like call it.
So not only does the voice jump, but the head just comes back in like some completely different angles. So talking this way and suddenly it's that way and suddenly this way and this way and then suddenly it's moved over there. Oh man, that stuff does my head in looking to jump cuts and stuff like that. At least put like some kind of romantic fade in between the two things or something like that. So
you can do fade and
Premiere. Well, do it again. You're only speaking for 10 minutes. Sure, you can get through that 10 minutes without fucking up every single 15 seconds. I can't. I'm an amateur at this shit, so I've got an excuse.
No, I think it's important to do it. There was some, I can't remember the guy's name now. The point will be redundant, but some bloke was talking to Guitar World, and the way that he claims later, the way that his words were misrepresented in print articles. So he's talking to Guitar World. We all know Guitar World, right? The journalist there. And his commentary was around the formation of Motley Crue. The way that the author framed it was that this, according to this guy, who reckons that he never said that, was the co-founding guitarist in Motley Crue alongside of Tommy Lee. And I've got to look up what this guy's name was. Sorry, it'll make sense because I've never heard of this guy before. But it drove home to me that print, including online interviews, so not doing what we're doing here, is open to all sorts of trickery and fuckery. That's why this sort of format and hearing all the blurps and blaps, as I call them, that's why I left our conversation with Stuart intact in full, so as the people understood that was the dynamic of the chat, because you've got to hear the nuance. Even someone taking a breath in sort of signifies whether or not they're about to say something important or the emotional weight behind things. And so I'll get to, as soon as I can open up Twitter, which has decided not to open up. It's giving me a blank screen here. Yuck. Hang on, let me look at my phone. Because I just want to...
You've not paid Elon Musk, have you?
What's that?
You've not paid Elon Musk enough money to be able to use Twitter.
Apparently not, no. What's this guy's name? It was Mitch Lafon, who was one of these journo types. Greg Leon is the name of the guitarist. Andrew Daly is the name of the Guitar World journalist. But apparently, according to this guy, Greg Leon, there are a lot of things in this interview that I did not say. The interviewer added some of his own bullshit. That's a real issue, James. I've got to say, that's been an issue now for a long time. And it's one of the reasons that I got into podcasting was just put it all out there. No matter what it is, put it all out there and I'll let people make up their own mind. As I said up the top, I'm a free speech absolutist. So I think all ideas, are provided the rule of common sense has run over them, are worth listening to. But then when you hear stories like that, so a bloke's done an interview with a credible masthead and the journalist, according to the person who's been interviewed, has manipulated his words or flat out made them up. For that to happen in 2023 is bullshit. It's ridiculous.
Maybe interview was a bit too boring and you had to get something out of it.
Well, it was...
But then again, if it was really boring, you wouldn't print it, would you?
Well, exactly. But to just make up that this guy was the co-founding guitarist in Motley Crue, like the Dirt has been out now for 20 years or whatever it's been out, the book, and the movie's been out for 4 or 5, you know.
The Dirt, I really enjoyed reading that book. But then there's also the really bad party idea where you decide when you're drunk that you're going to throw open the dirt and then whatever happens on that page you have to do.
Oh, my God.
Wow. I think no one actually wanted to play that game. And looking back, I can see it's probably for a really good reason.
Those guys were swallowing light globes and all sorts of stupid shit. I don't know how they're not dead or...
Yeah.
Yeah,
like definitely there's one of those bands where you go like, how are they not dead? Along with Aerosmith and probably Black Sabbath as well. Like how
too? Yeah, they're all on everything you could probably imagine in the 70s and early 80s. I don't know. I don't think they did survive intact. I mean, are you even slightly interested in this Aussie podcast that's going around at the moment?
I've tried watching it, but I just can't. I mean, to be honest, from what I have seen, Aussie seems the best thing about it, while the other ones is just like I never got into the Osbournes, that reality show, when that came out either, because I just looked at them and went, no, it's not for me at all. And I think it kind of ruined Aussie a little bit for me, seeing too much.
Same, yeah. Yep, correct.
Before that, it was like, he's Ozzy Osbourne. He bites the head off bats. That's all I kind of need to know for it to be cool. I don't need to know that he's got dogs. I don't need to know what house he lives in. I don't need to know anything apart from that he's the Prince of Darkness and he does batshit crazy things. That was kind of enough. And then seeing, then you see when they have... It's the weird thing, I guess, is like when you see a musician have opinions, too many opinions, it can do like, it can massively turn you off to like, what's that? The Jordan System of a Down claiming that because of his opinions, he's lost 100 fans. It's like, it's just, I don't think so, but I do think that musicians should really just not talk about politics because they're not that smart and they don't know that much, and most of the views are completely and utterly uninformed. It's a terrible idea to ask a musician about anything that isn't music. You don't know what you're going to get.
You get it. I do talk politics. If you listen to some of my chats, like Scotty from Carnifex, you get a feel often the cycle of the interview. So there's either a tour or an album. When you got a band like Carnifex who are touring and writing albums quite a bit, it means that opportunities come up to have a chat regularly. So by the third or fourth meeting, they remember you and you've got a pretty good grasp on what they're about. That's a pretty good time to gauge whether or not you can talk about a number of different topics, whether or not it's worthwhile or not. Generally speaking, I'm not going to introduce a topic like that to someone who I haven't met before or got some sort of an idea, or it's not really their thing, because it's painful listening to some people stumble through the very narrow gap between not trying to offend anybody and also answer the question. That's terrible because that's all that self-censorship kicks in. You want to speak to somebody who has some vague awareness of the fact that there's an audience out there, but also has the basic intelligence enough to have been well read and therefore be informed to have an opinion that is coherent as well. So I agree. I understand what you're saying, and I agree with it to a point, but I also think it's valuable to sort of, if someone wants to go there and have the conversation, to go there as well, but not every chat. Like if you do it every conversation, you might as well just call your podcast or your outlet, politics and metal or something like that, but it's also not what people want to hear when they're tuning into music too, a music-based podcast as well.
No, it's just like if I'm into music, I really just don't want to know what people think. I think in some cases it can, if they've got a completely different viewpoint to mine, or one that I just can't get behind, it does ruin music for me. But then that kind of leads into again, it's like how much can you tolerate from an artist before you just go like, I'm not going to listen to them anymore. So in that sense, for most stuff, I'll just go like, I'm not really interested in what my musical heroes think, because I kind of, in a selfish way, just don't want to ruin it for me.
Yeah, I find it interesting listening to regular people talk about politics because they've got no skin in the game. So musicians included, because if you listen to a politician talk about these issues, they've clearly got a pitch, they've got an angle. Same thing with the CNN-style journalists. They're reading from a script, or they've been given talking points that they've got to adhere to. So it's almost pointless. I think some of the gold in terms of my awareness of where we're at as a society does come from listening to regular people, whether they're just throwing musicians into the mix in general because of that. Talk about what's going on, because then you hear what other regular people, how they're affected by how much our taxes are going up or hyperinflation, all these things that as householders we need to be aware of. Like, I know that's very adult and very sort of dry and boring topics to talk about in a metal podcast or what have you, but occasionally to go there and to get an informed opinion by somebody who plays music, it just sort of brings that stuff isn't a world away. It's in the right here and the right now. And that's probably as good a summary as I can give to anybody as to why I do talk politics on the show from time to time.
I try to avoid it.
Yeah, cool. Yeah,
I go off on too many rants, and I just kind of think there's a time and a place for that and stuff like that. But just when you're going on about music, it kind of isn't it. Because I think the world actually at the moment is way more fragmented than it used to be. People have so many polarizing views, a lot more than I remember, like growing up and even 10, 15 years ago, where it's very black and white. So
I know. It's crazy.
One space you find where you still have a way of people talking to each other, still via kind of talking about bands and music and what you like, what you don't do, and listening to have that kind of like experience there. Because whilst music can bring up a lot of stuff inside you and just like make you feel in a certain way, remind you of a certain time, it's very much a way of sharing stuff with people that you might not otherwise talk to. And if you just leave the politics out, or you just don't have that problem.
Yeah, it can bubble away. I just find it can bubble away. I've been in bands with people that have been really politically motivated, and usually they're far left wing types. And if you don't agree with them, they accuse you. So what if you don't stand against racism, you are clearly for it. It's like, really? It's that black and white to you. To your point about it being a binary equation, it's like
it's too binary. It's like nothing is binary. If you stick around long enough, nothing is black or white. It's always something somewhere in between.
Yeah, of course.
You kind of accept that and work towards somewhere in between, which is known as compromise. And let's all just get along like Mars Attacks. Then it makes, I don't know, just life better if you're not fighting all the time and you actually learn to chill out and get along.
Well,
lots of hippie sentiment there, so I apologize for that on a show about metal, but
Yeah, it's important, mate. It's important. Yeah, I agree with you. I don't know how we got to a point where things have become so binary so quickly. I mean, the amount of kids that are walking around in Palestinian flags that are hopelessly inarticulate about what's actually going on in that region, they just pick a side straight away because their heroes pick a side or what have you. You're seeing this. I'm only seeing what the algorithm's throwing up. Now, I know it's only a very small percentage, okay? So I'm not saying it's an absolute minority, meaning a great amount of a minority people doing it or what have you, but it's just like the thing to do is exactly what you said, find compromise at some point. But that seems to be an art that's, if you're underneath the age of 35, this is my approaching middle-aged man speak here. If you're underneath the age of about 35, you just don't seem to have had the same education that we got, where you were forced to think about things and pitch an argument. You were forced to you had to write essays, you had to stand up in front of people and pitch your case. Whereas these days it just seems like, I'm only going by what I'm seeing the algorithms throwing up. Okay, God knows there's probably all these people underneath 35 who are loaded with common sense are going, you're wrong. But I hope I'm wrong.
Actually, I have to completely disagree with that. I do think there's a lot of critical thinking out there. I do think there's people, who do look at both sides. I just think that we've developed into a place where it's much easier to say something that isn't true just to get a rise and just to basically get people to listen to you than it is, and then later apologize for it when no one actually sees you apologizing for it, than it is to actually compromise. You get way more coverage by saying something extreme and just pushing the boundaries further and further apart than you would if you were being reasonable.
Yeah.
And
I know.
I'm afraid a lot of these people push those boundaries and being unreasonable are over 35 and should know better.
Well, I think that they're bought by the corporatocracy, though. I think that's what I talked about, where they're reading from a script if they're on CNN or what have you. And I mean, the fact that we've got two major news outlets that more or less is worldwide too. So CNN is left wing and Fox News is right wing. It's like there just isn't the centre base anymore. There isn't people talking about things. Piers Morgan has had some incredible conversations recently, and some of them have been vaguely horrific, to be honest. He's been getting these Palestinian activists on to pitch their case. And fair play to Piers. I mean, he comes across as a bit of a wanker from time to time, but at least he's trying to get to the bottom of things and actually let people have their speech. Again, being a free speech absolutist, let people say what they want to say. But it's beyond being hopelessly uninformed. They're ideologues, these people. They have an ideology, and despite all other available evidence, they will stick to an ideology regardless. And that's what I mean by the under 35s.
Yeah, well, that's literally both sides. It's just, and I don't think it's over 35, under 35s. I think it's just pretty much everyone, once they've gone down a certain route. I actually think the older you get, the more your views harden and the less likely you are to be able to actually do any critical thinking.
Really? That's interesting.
Yeah.
I tend to go the opposite way.
I think, when you're young, you still have like lots of ideas being thrown at you, and just like, yeah, you'll sure you'll get like people who will just go down a certain path because of who they're surrounded with. But when you're young, you're way more open to soaking up information. Whereas when you get older, you're way more, I don't know, just you've had your life path, you've had your experience, and they've kind of shaped who you are now. It's much harder to pivot at an older age than at a young age. And the same is true of music. I mean, of all the new stuff coming out, you'll still find you still reach the old stuff or stuff that sounds like, stuff you liked 10, 20 years ago, as opposed to stuff that kids like, because sometimes you just don't get it. You go like, well, no, this is not interesting for me anymore. I don't see why everyone's so into this. So that in that way, you're kind of views have hardened because if you were 20 years young, you'd be going into all this stuff going, this is all awesome. And you'd be able to tell differences between bands that when you get older, you just listen to them, they kind of sound the same. Then again, when I listened to the bands when I was young that were older, they all sounded the same as well. So, I guess it's kind of where your interest lies. But I do believe that the older you get, the more your views harden and the harder it is for anyone to kind of convince you to, change the way you think. And unfortunately, all the old people are the people that make most of the decisions.
Yeah.
That's my theory on it anyway. I think that's probably as far as I should go with politics. Otherwise, it's going to be
Oh, it's good to hear your perspective on things. It also depends on the environment from which you're used to being around as well. I think I understand what you're saying about music, though. Yeah, I'm definitely not stuck in the past. There's no doubt about that. But I'm just my knowledge bank is built up to the point where I can hear a band. Like most of these power metal bands sound like as though they're mimicking the first couple of Blind Guardian or Halloween albums, and I just don't see the bloody point. I'm just, well, if I want to listen to Blind Guardian, they're there. They're right there. I'll listen to that shit. What new thing are you adding to this? I get bands have got, you want to have people who, I know there are people out there, for example, who just listen to power metal and stuff, but I've never been that guy. My music, probably like yours, mate, goes from dub and calypso music right through to the heaviest of heavy metal.
Yeah, I'm always trying to listen to new stuff and kind of go, this is cool. But I do find my attention span is much shorter than it used to be. Like I'll find like one or two good songs from an artist. I'll just try and get into them more and then find out that sometimes those are the only two good songs. And then sometimes I'll just find someone and go, actually, no, that our whole album's good.
Well, that is a problem though, James. That is a real issue these days, is the bands aren't creating albums. And I can tell you that's from guys like really good producers like Michael Beanhorn. And they notice that when they're producing bands, that the albums just they're there to service the tour or they're there to service the commercial product. The albums have stopped being the thing, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, but there's a lot of albums I bought as a kid that could have been accused of the exact same thing, where you had a really good single that you saw on MTV. You went, this is amazing. Does my local record shop have it in stock? No, I'm gonna have to order it, come there a week later, take it home, excited to listen to it, and then realize the whole album is dog shit apart from that one song they put on MTV. So, I think this has been going on for a long time, that producing a quality album's always been difficult for anyone. Like everyone's got like at least one song in them, but you have like 12 songs for an album. You have like 40 songs for good albums. Do you have those 50 songs in you? And that's where I think the difference lies.
Yeah, no, I got the same point. Yeah.
But as you say, you are shipping a product as well. So if you're like say Architects doing really well, they're producing some really good stuff. I really, really have been into them for like the past couple of albums. I thought they've been absolutely brilliant in what they're doing. But then you'll find that, they're not producing an album every year. They're doing maybe every 2 or 3 years. And for those 2 or 3 years, you've got a whole bunch of people that want to buy something that's like the Architect. So what you just ship a whole bunch of bands out. You kind of get them to write songs. They do all write songs in the same style as that band. People buy that shit up and just wait for the next album to come along, in which case they'll do that. But those songs don't need good quality. They're just basically like the McDonald's that you have on, as a snack during the day or something like that. Or it's like the meal because you can't find what you really want to eat.
Mm. Yeah, you're not wrong about that. It probably has been going on for a long time, but we grew up in an era where you could pick up a Megadeth album or an early Aussie album and hear it for the first time, and there was just an expectation that balance of probability lent toward there being a quality album there of killer songs, but killer. I'm not saying this as a bass player. I'm saying this as a music fan, but you could always tell the killer albums because you knew who the bass player was. And that was how I used to.
That is an interesting theory. That is a real. I think I'm gonna have to fight you on that one because of who the bass player was.
What's that?
who the bass player was.
Yeah.
That's the bass player. Oh man, you're gonna have to support this argument a lot more than just coming out, just random inflammatory statements like.
I'll give you an example. Okay, so how many people up to when the internet came out, it became a thing? How many people could tell you who wrote the Ozzy Osbourne stuff and who was his bass player? Of course, I know who it is because I was a huge fan, but and I love those albums. And the bass is actually the linchpin. The bass and the drums are actually the linchpin of those first two albums. Randy does his thing, of course, and Ozzy just puts his stuff over the top. But the reason I say that is because I'm not talking about the quality of the musicianship. I want to be clear here. I'm talking about the impact on popular culture. The bass player is always the fourth in line as a singer, the guitarist, and the drummer. The drummer and the bass player are sort of, there or thereabouts, but the bass player was sort of, you see those memes now, and I say this is a 30-year-long bass player, let my friend play bass and it's got the cool guy smoking the guitar or something. I play bass, so I'm going to make him play the guitar like as if it's some sort of a downer to play the bass or what have you. So that's all my comment is motivated by, and I fell in love with the bass first before I fell in love with anything else. So I'm honestly the wrong guy to be arguing the point against the bass player.
Yeah, true. But I can see both because, Steve Harris is obviously the main guy in Iron Maiden. He writes everything. You can tell other people occasionally allowed to do some stuff, but it's his band, his music, and everyone else is there just they help out. But it is Steve Harris. That is his brainchild completely. With Ozzy, I'm not so sure because he's gone through guitarists like Popcorn, and they've all brought something different to his band. Like I'm not massively into Randy Rhoads era Ozzy Osbourne. I mean, it's cool and stuff like that, but I'm not massively into it. But then you go Bark at the Moon, and it's Jake E. Lee, and for me, that's amazing.
Yes,
I mean, his playing and what he does and everything like that just makes that album. And then the two albums after that with Zakk Wylde, I also rate extremely highly. I just love those albums. But those are very guitar led in a lot of way. Maybe not the structure of the songs. I mean, I know Lemmy wrote some stuff on
No More Tears. Yeah, No More Tears. Yeah. I know what you're saying. It's I've spoken to Bob before about this, and he wrote a lot of the music and certainly all of the lyrics on the first 4 or 5 albums. He wasn't credited. That was the whole court case. That's what that was about. It was about publishing royalties with Sharon. Yeah. So I think she knows how to attract the right people. And I'm just reading Tanner Douglas's book, so she knows how to turn away roadies as well, it turns out. She was a roadie who was status quo, AC/DC, and even Ozzy and Deep Purple there for a period of time. Whitesnake, I should say. But yeah, even she was saying that she's a woman that doesn't take no for an answer. That's the summarized Sharon Osbourne right there. And I thought that was as an articulate a summary of Sharon's philosophy as ever I've heard. And if you get on the bloody wrong side of it, mate, well, we all know what happens then. You're out, including your ability to obtain royalties. She's a tough one.
Yeah, and I think they remove you from albums. She removed people from albums as well, didn't she?
Oh, that was disgusting, what she did there. Yeah, she
couldn't even get mechanical royalties anymore.
I believe Rob Trujillo when he says he didn't know what he was recording when he played the parts, because I think Rob's a stand-up guy. I don't think he's a liar. When he and Mike Borden from Faith No More were brought in to re-record those parts on the first 2 albums to remove the mechanical royalties off the recording moving forward. And I was talking to Andreas from Sepultura about it. When you listen to those re-recordings, they're not even lined up in the digital audio workstation. You can hear bits where the bass or the drums go just a bit too long and they're just out of sync with Randy's playing, because you can't recreate that. Randy was playing along to Bob's bass. You can't fuck with that. And they tried to do that. It was ridiculous.
Yes, it's one of those things we go like, there was no point in doing that apart from just being utterly, utterly, utterly vindictive.
Yeah, mean-spirited. It was horrible. It's horrible to hear. And I think Bob or Lee Kerslake said it best. He goes, forget about us. It's disrespect to Randy.
Come on. Even Gene Simmons and Paul Stanley haven't done that to Ace Frehley and
Peter Criss.
Chris, yeah. I'm not that big of a Kiss fan. But, Not even they've gone back to 70s albums to, like, just to remove them from it. And to be honest, if I could see anyone doing stuff like that, then the first I'd think of Gene Simmons, because those guys do not get along anymore.
There's a good theory, Bob. I think you probably heard of this one. It's only a theory, okay? Bob certainly confirmed it on a couple of albums. The Creatures of the Night that he played on, I think it was Bob Kulick, Bruce's brother, who sadly passed away. Mate, for all we know, he was actually the guitar player on those. I'm not saying that he is, by the way. I'm just saying the amount of ghost playing that goes on that I've heard of, under the cloak of secrecy is utterly ridiculous in rock and metal. It's like there's a handful of players that can play their own shit. And in terms of these big bands I'm talking about, and they seem to play on all of the albums. And it's a very general statement, I know, but it would not surprise me in the least if there's, after everybody sort of moved on and passed away, or what have you, it came out that Bob was the player on those early Kiss albums, and that's the reason why they sound cohesive, because he should have been the Kiss guitarist. They should have had him in the band from day one, and I think they know that. It's just that Ace became a fixture of the group, and you couldn't really replace him after the first or second album.
Yeah, I do not know enough about Kiss history for any of that. Just that, if it was anyone that were going to do it, Gene Simmons seems like the kind of guy that would do it.
Yeah, I got to say, I've got a lot of time for Gene. I must be just because I take everything that I've read a lot of copy.
I mean, that's because he's ruthless. I'm not actually saying that I just hate the guy or anything like that, or anything to him, but he just seems like the kind of ruthless guy that would do it.
I've got some. I don't know Gene at all. Never met him, but I know a bloke who's very close to him, and we talk fairly regularly. And this guy is a guy who I trust, and he tells me that Gene and Paul are both stand-up guys. Like what he said is, if they say they're going to do something, it happens. And I believe that too, based on things that I've read them talk about. And look, they're business guys. They're just business guys. I mean, they could have been running a hedge fund and said they're running a band. I think that's the key thing to understand about those two guys. And the other thing too is I had a number of conversations with Evan Stanley, Paul Stanley's son, and I'll share this, mate. When I spoke to him, he was in a band called the Dives, and he seemed like a really nice, articulate, smart young fella, and we were having trouble with the connection. So we agreed, this is years ago when we were using Skype, so it wasn't stable as Zoom. And he agreed, yeah, let's do the conversation later when we're coming back for rehearsal. I'll be on the subway in New York. I think he's in New York State or what have you. And it might be a bit more stable then. We'll see how we go. Anyway, I called him back and we had a really good conversation, and he didn't quite hang up the call afterwards, and I didn't realise I put my headphones down and I could hear him talking to Sergio, his bandmate, and this is without realising that they were talking they hadn't hung up yet, but they're just having a conversation. Evan was saying, man, that was a really good interview, and man, I love doing this, and that guy was really nice. This is the shit that I could hear him saying that he didn't realise that I could hear. Of course, I only heard it back after I'd listened to the recording. I didn't include any of it, but what it made me think is that, man, Gene and Paul, like, to raise a kid like that who seems to have that level of respect for someone that's interviewing him, who's just trying to give him some publicity or what have you. And it was the way that I could hear him talking. I just remember thinking, if I ever meet Paul, I'm going to give him that feedback that happened. And that's what I heard him say. And he's raised a really good kid there. And that was my point there. So I think the thing about Gene and Paul is I just think that they've got their head screwed on right way, and that interaction with Evan sort of gave me a bit more of an insight than most would get, I think.
Yeah.
So I mean, normally you'd expect to hear that guy's a fuck. I wish I don't have to do this shit anymore. This shit's garbage. I mean, talking to a dickhead in Australia, what's that going to do for me? You sort of think that it might come that someone might say shit like that. And I've had some clunker of interviews, mate, like Rex from Pantera, who I wouldn't interview again. So trust me, they're not all good.
No, I mean, everyone's a human being, aren't they? But my point about Kisses, like the two that are no longer in the band and being replaced, they just seem to have something to say about it every single week. They're that unhappy about it. But then you kind of look at it and go, well, it doesn't sound like they're particularly pleasant people to deal with or easy people to deal with, or, got their heads screwed on or stuff like that. And I think maybe in some cases, like, it's never going to work again with those people. It's just gone too far.
Well, Ace is clearly under the influence. I mean, anybody with any sense of reality, you can see that he might not be that connected anymore, and Peter, I do feel a bit for, because I have spoken to him, and look, Peter does insist that he was never the drugs guy. He doesn't even say it's Ace's thing. He just goes, that was unfair to say that was about me. I just think he and Paul and Gene didn't get along. It's as simple as that. And he felt like he was on the out based on royalties, and Beth was a huge hit, as we know. I think that's their biggest song, if I'm not mistaken. There's probably other songs, but I think that might be it's certainly one of their biggest. It's certainly one of their centerpiece songs at the live thing. And I think he felt like he was owed a bit more than he was more responsible for their success than what they let on. There you go. I think that's what it is with him. But whatevs. He's still famous.
Yeah. So he's not done too badly, has he?
No, not at all. Not at all. Oh, look, if you're in that band for even a couple of years, like Bruce Kulick, you can have an enormous career off the back of that. And I've spoken to Bruce a few times too, and he's an awesome guy. Like he's really appreciative, and I think he's got his contribution to the band, which I actually think is more notable than what he says it is. I think his contribution was really important for getting them through the 80s when not a lot of people were tuning in. Or people were still tuning in, but there's not a lot of legacy associated with it. But my favourite albums have him on it from that band, actually. They're not the earlier stuff, they're the later stuff.
No, I do not know enough about Kiss to even comment on all this. I just know the songs that get played, and that's pretty much it. That's kind of where my interest with Kiss completely ends. It's like I don't think I can ever listen to a whole album or anything like that. But there's people that are nuts about them. But that's the beauty of it, isn't it? So some bands you can go like, I just can't see why anyone would be into this. And there's other people just look at stuff that I'm into, go like, what is he listening to? That boring, trite shite that he's put on. What is that? And he's waxing lyrical, but how it's the greatest thing ever. It's like, come on, let's put on some Kiss.
Yeah, I think I find the cultural aspect of Kiss more interesting than the music itself, I've got to say. I'll listen to some of their 80s material in the background if I want something to just be put on. It's great music when you're having a couple of beers, I find, or a couple of drinks, and you just want a bit of a light in the atmosphere, and you just want to feel a bit of an up feeling. I find Kiss is really, really good for that. But I can't really the earlier stuff. It's too entrenched in an element of culture that I don't really quite relate to. Whereas the 80s stuff, I found I could make it more my own. Does that make sense? Because nobody was listening to it, so I could just sort of insert it in. What's You Make Me Rock Hard? I've even played that. I'm actually trying to get You Make Me Rock Hard, of course, the double entendre of that, into our cover band set list, because I can actually sing it. So I'm trying to get it in there. We'll see how we go.
Oh, the 80s was definitely the decade of the double entendre, wasn't it?
Oh, the lyrics in that, I can't even keep a straight face when I'm singing those lyrics. If you just, for anybody out there, look up the lyrics to You Make Me Rock Hard, and then if you don't, I think Desmond Child might have written it actually, and Paul wrote the lyrics. But yeah, when you listen to that, when you read those lyrics, man, you're just like, that is Kiss at its absolute purest form.
I'll have to give it a go, but I'm not sure I'm gonna be into it as I should. As I will be. I'll probably just look like, that's all right.
I don't know whether you read the comments. Did you read the comments?
No one was particularly hateful, which is disappointing, because I've got a YouTube channel where I've set fire to a guitar, and I used to get hate mail comments all the time. Like, what you do to this guitar? You are a war criminal. We hunt you down with this beautiful guitar. Why you burn? It wasn't even my guitar as well. I think it came out really well, but yeah, we definitely set fire to that motherfucker. And now people think it's worth money, and they just look at this video and go like, what are these crazy English people doing? Do you know what? It's really hard to burn a guitar with a finish.
I bet.
Like, really, really hard.
Yeah. Well, it's got a lacquer on it and everything. It's got lots of stuff it's got to get through to get to the wood.
Yeah, I know. So I think we went through everything from, like, what was it?
Zippo lighter fluid, the whole works.
Zippo lighter fluid does not work. Yeah, that just it's a flash in the pan. To really get that finish, you need the glue, the really flammable glue, because that will stick and burn in place, and then you just get it off. Basically, you turn the yellow guitar into a banana.
Oh, really? Okay, there you go. Yeah. Right. I'll keep that in mind next time I'm burning a guitar. So,
yeah, we've got to finish. It's really, really hard. It's a lot harder than you think it is.
No, look, I thought it's Sarah. I had this chatting between us first talking, and Sarah, and that just has gone ballistic, as you'd appreciate. And there's a thing with the Cradle alumni where you don't actually realise how important your contribution is. And it's interesting, and I get that because you're a humble fella, but it's also important to understand that you are important to people out there, and they know who you are, and they're interested in what you've got to say as well. And there were a lot of comments. I got messages saying you guys talked about potentially doing another show like we're clearly doing now, and people are like, where you guys got along really well, that'd be fantastic to hear. And I didn't say anything was going to happen or otherwise. I just said I hope it does. And so here we are. So I think you'll find that. Look, I hope it. The other thing is, I hope it helps with what you're doing with Summon the Wolves. So I hope it raises awareness to the point where you've got people who listen to the show who then jump across and who are invested in your music.
Yeah. Well, when there's music to bring out, which is happening. But man, this has to be my third or fourth attempt getting an album together, and sometimes I've watched it almost get to the point where it's been good and it's completely fall apart. So I'm always nervous about it, but I think this won't come good.
I hope it does. It deserves to. You're in a similar position to Paul Allender, whose stuff still hasn't come out. The Unnamed Horror stuff still. He used to send, like you were doing. He used to send me across stuff, and I'd listen to it, and I'd message him back, say, "Come on, what's going on?" But I just think he's busy with working and stuff. But it's just a matter of planets aligning, and then you've got these killer riffs, and it's all there musically. It's just whether or not the business side of it can come together for you now. I take it, is it?
Yeah, I think it's pretty much just that. I think it's just a case of you get everything recorded, you get everything mixed, mastered, get some pictures taken, have something ready, and then you just go to people. It's like, are you interested in this? It's like, do you see this being viable? And at that point, yeah. And if no one does, then I'll just self-release it. And there's no PR at all. But to me, it doesn't. It's no longer, I think, the do or die that it used to be. We go like, this has got to be it. This has got to be the kind of thing. For me, this is more like this is where me and the rest of the guys in this band are at this moment. And it'd be nice to take a snapshot, like a good picture, so that everyone can just listen to it and enjoy it. And if enough people enjoy it, cool. But if it just goes out there and like a couple of people enjoy it, also cool. I just like to play some fun gigs, have some music out there, and just basically, have a good time doing it.
Yeah.
That's the important thing.
Yeah, there's definitely a glass ceiling too. I think that's if you unless you've got a machine behind you that pays a lot of money to game the algorithm, you're going to reach a couple of thousand people at best. That's just generally how it happens, and I've seen that firsthand. Okay, so unless you've got a label behind you who's paying quite a bit of money, because that's where a lot of the investment goes into promoting the band on social media. Oh, how else do you do it? There's not magazines and shit anymore. That's the only game in town is social media. So, or playing shows, or touring and playing shows. So, yeah,
or getting one of your band members to die. Generally, that's another way. But I think we've drawn straws, and it looks like it might be me. But
what makes you say that?
I think they decided that it was the best option. It's because it would generate the most publicity.
You're the most famous member, so yeah, it makes sense. And then from that perspective, not that anybody wants that to happen, but that.
I mean, I could do it like allegedly an Elvis, and I could just die. They can make up some story that I just basically, just died in the toilet somewhere, and it was very, very tragic. Yeah. And I could just go and live my life in somewhere sunny or something like that.
And bring out the T-shirts, the ones like the Cliff Burton ones where you're looking whimsically off into the sunset. Those ones.
Yeah. Like there's this massive ray of light coming down, and my hand's up there, guitar in the other hand, And it was like, it's like a tribute shirt.
Oh my God, it's so true.
And then I could ghostwrite the next album without anyone noting.
Yeah, exactly.
Like Risco, like, here we go. You've got the good-looking guy playing guitar now.
Yeah.
So
the songs James wrote on his deathbed. Here they are.
These are songs written on his deathbed. Death toilet. It doesn't really particularly matter which one you're actually going for.
Recorded it in the bathroom. There you go.
Yeah, that's the one way of doing it. It's like faking your own death for publicity.
Stranger things have happened. Yeah.
Yeah, the other ones you can basically, you can something controversial like you bite the head off a fox, or I don't know, something that will just basically get a bunch of people up in arms about stuff, and then you can later say no, it actually didn't happen, but it doesn't really matter. It's a couple of shocking things or something like that, or there's ways to do something completely unrelated to music that'll get people to pay attention. But I do think the band dying one is the best one.
Well, you're assured of immortality then. Yeah, I mean, God almighty, God help me for saying it, but I distinctly recall nobody really giving a shit about Chuck Schuldiner when he was alive, okay? Nowadays, you got people walking around whacking with bloody whole back tattoos of Chuck and death and stuff, and I've spoken to the guys that were in the band about it, like Gene Hoglan and stuff, and they notice it too, and it's like, or Steve DiGiorgio in particular, and I don't think they find it that odd, but they're just like, yeah, back in the day, man, we just were playing music and, a few hundred people would turn up. These days, man, there's tattoos and shit everywhere. And most of these kids weren't even alive.
No, because they brought a sound of perseverance and stuff like that. Death metal at that point had become more niche than it had at the beginning of the 90s when there was that explosion. So it was like Def Leppard, Morbid Angel, a couple of other bands, Cannibal Corpse and stuff like that. And everyone else had kind of just, I don't know, just wasn't as much going on anymore. And then I remember it's like, yeah, they were trying to do like a fundraiser for him and stuff like that because American healthcare is appalling. And then it was gone, and we're like going, oh man, that really really sucks. But yeah, you're right. It's nowhere near like it is now, where he's kind of like everyone knows who Chuck Schuldiner and Def is in metal, mostly, if you're into that kind of thing.
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, I call it what it is. It's a death cult. So you get all of these people that I've had people, they're not musicians, so I don't think they understand what they're saying.
Cliff Burton as well.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. The Cliff Burton thing, it's like, oh, you're a bass player and you're into metal. Oh, Cliff's the best, and you got to agree Cliff's the best, right? And you can see that weird look they got in their eye, and I'm like, yeah, he's the best. It's all right. Slowly step away from the drunk person, and it's but they can't be reasoned with. They've got Cliff Burton is the best musician ever, and shut up. And it's like, whoa, okay. If you've taken that view, that's cool. It's a perspective, but I don't really want to be here now. I'm going to go over there. So yeah, it's ridiculous. It's like, yeah, and
that's why a band member dying is the best publicity.
It was what it did for Metallica. I mean, God, I'm not suggesting for a minute that they intentionally capitalized on it. So Peanut Gallery, just settle down. I'm not saying that. What I am saying is that it developed a bit of an aura around the band that just got bigger and bigger over the years. And like, if you say to any metal fan these days, who's Cliff? They'll say Burton. It's just a given. That's how big his legacy is, how big his aura is. And he's a serviceable bass player who played with a shitload of distortion and could write some pretty good stuff, man. But the eulogies that I've read even recently about Cliff are just nuts. They put him on an almost, it's idolizing somebody. It's a bit odd, to be frank. I don't idolize anybody. It's whether it's sports. I love football, rugby league, and rugby union, but I don't idolize anybody. You know what I mean? It's just you can't put anybody on such a pedestal that they're non-human anymore.
No, you can't do that. It just doesn't work out very well, does it? We can appreciate their body of work and go, well, damn, there was more to come and it would have been really cool. Like, got your Hendrixes, you got your everyone has kind of died at like the height of their powers almost. Where you go, what more would they have done? And I think the answer is probably about 2 or 3 more good albums, after which they would have kind of lost their way and done some weird stuff for a while, and then maybe come back 10, 15 years later with the album that brought them back and people are into them again. So it would have gone, their careers would all have gone the same trajectory. There's a word, trajectory. Yeah, that one. They'd all have the same trajectory as everybody else's music careers.
Yeah.
Like, breakthrough success, people love you, people get bored of you, you disappear into the wilderness for a while, and then you come back and people like you again.
So true. So very true. Yeah. You get it. Yeah. And Ozzy's on record as saying Randy would have left after Diary of a Madman. So those two albums came out they were certainly recorded one after the other. They were released in, very within a couple of months of each other too. I think 6 or 8 months of each other. But I think after that tour was done, the tour that Randy died on during, that was it. There was going to be another guitarist after then anyway, because he was going to go back and become a guitar teacher or whatever. He'd done his rock star thing and that was it for him. It wasn't a lifestyle he wanted to lead anymore. And then to your point, maybe 10, 15 years later or what have you, but then it could have been like a Chris DeGarmo thing too, in that people don't realise how much of a contribution he's made to Queensryche, so there's therefore not that aura around his playing. So he just might have been one of the series of guitarists, like the first in a very long, or even worse. When I say even worse, I don't really know anything about Quiet Riot. He's just the ex-Quiet Riot guy that was in Ozzy's band.
Yeah,
I bet that it would have been that.
Exactly. So it's all, what are you going to do? So there's definitely, I think, a case of if you die, you become something that transcends what you would have become. But I think that taps into people's required to romanticize things and, just have stories and heroes and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, they need some escapism. It all links into escapism and people's life is hard, life is long. We've got bills to pay, taxes to pay. People go through breakups when they're still trying to figure out their life, and your friends come and go, and you have other disappointments like you don't get the job you want, or maybe you don't pass the exam you studied really hard for, and you need something that can lift you out of that. So I understand why people lean into these icons, and they're sort of like a permanent fixture throughout their life. I've never personally done it, so I'm not saying I can't relate to it. I can understand it. I just would personally not be that way. I think there's so much interesting things in reality. I don't need to sort of make anything up, if that makes sense. I don't need to lean into my imagination too heavily, is what I'm saying.
So there you go. Right. Anyway, this is good chat.
Well, there you have it. The first episode done and dusted of Talking Metal and some other shit featuring James McIlroy. Hope you enjoyed it. My name's Andrew Mackay-Smith and I'm the host of the Scars and Guitars podcast. There'll be another one. I can feel it. So until next time, it's a goodbye for now.